This is The Naked Life with Roxanne Noor. Hi guys, welcome to the show. This is Roxanne Noor. I feel nostalgic right now, and I had some revelations from a past travel in Turkey that I hadn't fully processed. And it's really interesting in life where there's so much movement. It's like being in one moment to the next, to the next, to the next. And I feel like there's so much rapidity in my life. There's so much fast pacedness that sometimes it's really difficult for me to even think about the tremendous amount of beauty or revelations or findings I've had because there's just like so little space to process. And I want this basically to be a space in which I'm processing a story that happened to me. So the story starts I was going to Turkey with the intention to reunite with an ex boyfriend and meet his current girlfriend, and we were going to travel all together. And so we took a car and we were in Istanbul, but then we went down south, and yeah, we were just traveling southern Turkey in our car. This one day we were on a beach near Demre, and there was an old man we saw by a tent with a big fire and a pot of chai, of Turk chai, of tea. And he invited us over, and we were talking to him. And I was just seeing the way he actually lives there. Like, he lives off the land. So he was making tea himself, obviously, in that moment. But everything that he had gotten, he basically collected himself. He was old, probably in his 70s. But all the firewood he's collected himself. He offered to make us dinner. His dinner was what he caught from the ocean. There were olive trees growing on the property of the beach. So we were on this beach that he was living on. There were olive trees, there were pomegranate trees nearby. Obviously, when he went into the ocean, he was a fisherman, and so he would catch fish. And I found all of this super beautiful because he was not using money. Like, everything in his life was built off of being self sustainable and living off the land. And I saw this as really revelatory and beautiful, and that you could do something like this and be happy because he was healthy, he was thriving, he was smiling and laughing a lot. And he asked us if we wanted to live with him, and we said yes. So we lived in our own tents and just lived off the land. And it was, yeah, it was a great experience. We spent our days, I would go out onto the water with the old fisherman, and he would teach me how to catch eel, how to catch fish. And at that time, I was a vegetarian. So I'd been vegetarian for about 9 years. And watching him catch it, I was like, okay, this feels sustainable. I can eat this. And so I started to eat fish because we caught it ourselves. And we would go canoeing on this river that led to the ocean, and the river had great sea turtles, and we would just watch the way the turtles moved from this source to the sea. And the days were just so peaceful. There felt like there was really nothing we needed to do. I was writing a lot. I was writing a lot of poetry. I was sitting under a tree and meditating. I was swimming in the ocean. I was having conversations with the Turkish man. We would smoke, the Turkish fisherman, we would smoke weed together at night, and he would sing me songs in Turkish. We would sit around the fire and look up at the stars in like a really quiet type of reverence for nature. And it was just really easy to feel connected to something. And then days passed, and he asked me to come on the canoe with him and if I wanted to smoke some weed, which was normal. And so I said, yes, let me go get my friends. They can join us. And he said, no, 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 just you and me. And that's not very weird, but there was a feeling in me that something is slightly off. And I went back to the tent, told my friends, hey, I'm going to go smoke some weed with the Turkish fisherman on his boat. But I just have a really weird feeling about it because he didn't want me to invite you guys. And they're like, oh, it's fine. You're probably being paranoid. Like, he's like your grandpa. At that point, it really felt like he was my grandpa. Like, we were just doing things together in a way that felt familial. So I surpassed my feelings of weirdness and I got on the boat with him and the canoe boat, weird thing. I got on with him and we were paddling and we stopped paddling and he brought out the weed and we started smoking and talking. And after 20 minutes of conversation, he said, you know, I love you. And I said, yeah, I know. Yes, I love you too. And it felt normal. And then a moment later, he grabbed me and tried to put me on his lap, and I moved away, and then he moved towards me and tried to kiss me. And instead of being extremely grossed out because he's like a really old man that I saw as like a grandpa figure, all I felt was extreme compassion and seeing that we can renounce everything in life. We can renounce the material world like the fisherman did. We can renounce wanting things like money. We can renounce wanting a family. We can renounce being a scholar because he was smart, but he didn't want to involve himself in academia. He just wanted to live in nature. So we can renounce all worldly things, but we cannot renounce our own bodies. And it was so obvious to me that he was so socially impoverished that this was just something he felt he needed, which was so basic, such a fundamental, just human connection. He was able to let go of so much of his desire system from the past for this vision of life that felt more true and more pure, which is living with the earth. And I felt that within him, but he could not let go of his desire for physicality, for touch, for connection. And I said no. And he asked me if I would continue to live with him because I made plans to go to Kaş, a different part of Turkey. And I said, no, I won't live with you anymore. I'm going to Kaş. And it really upset him. And I could see the ways in which loneliness is such an illness. It's such a poverty. And the fear in his eyes, knowing that I would return back to like my life as a traveler and not live with him anymore, and how sad it made him feel. And yeah, really all I could feel was a lot of compassion, was this feeling that all we really want in life is to feel connection. And there are things that we feel like what he had to the land, I feel most people have forgotten. They see the land as something that's separate from them, not as an extension of themselves or their bodies. And for him, it was very obvious that the earth is him and he knew how to work with it. And it was very kind to him. And he didn't have this sense of being against any of the natural forces. He was very in harmony with his environment. And how most modernized people don't have that. But then they create structures, they create a nuclear family, and he was just alone. And I felt like that is a extremely difficult path to go through life truly alone, because we have our cities where we feel isolated even though there's thousands of people, but there is an ability for at least people to be there. And living on this secluded beach in nature, he wasn't getting social exposure. And this is what creates, like, even if we think about the concept of solitary confinement, this is what creates like mental illness in people, is being completely isolated. And so, yeah, we can renounce everything, but we can't renounce our own bodies. And I've had this feeling when I've gone into brahmacharya or celibacy, in which I am trying to resist my desire system of wanting sex to reach some type of holiness that I know is there, that I've touched before. But how much can we truly renounce our own bodies? And there has to be a point in time in which we really live within them. And it's not just primal animal impulse, but it's giving ways to the fact in which we need physical touch. We need to feel like co regulation. We need to allow the mirror neurons to work their way. And yeah, I couldn't give the Turkish fisherman what he wanted sexually because that would never happen. But I feel I gave him a sense of being able to connect again. And I see the way in which when we'd eat dinner together, how happy he was to give his food, how happy he was to serve me, how happy he was to make me a cup of tea, how happy he was just to spend time. And that in itself is a huge gift. And so all the times I want to get too holy, all the times I want to resist all impulse, all the times in which I just want to go off into a cave or vipassana or clear myself is the reminder that actually I came into this earth in a human body. And this body has desires. And some of those desires might always be there. And that is also a part of the spiritual path.